Welcome to the Arc Media Video Marketing Show.
So welcome to the Video Marketing Show. Today we've got Phil and myself, Graham, and we're going to be talking about 5 top tips about getting the best footage you can when you're making your own videos at home. To start off with, let's talk about background. So have you got a couple of tips about background, what looks best, what doesn't look good?
I think the main thing with the background is to make sure you haven't got a window behind yourself, because that will just overexpose. If you ever watch things like Crime Watch, where you've got the person in silhouette and then the big window behind them, you cannot see them. So obviously that's quite a bit of a lighting tip. But when it comes to background, it's trying to make it engaging and interesting for whoever's watching your video. So it might be that you have like a roller banner or a banner like this behind you. It might be that you have just something that's like the company logo on the door that you're in the office or something like that. Or if you're in a factory, you might have the shop floor behind you so you can see the depth of your operation, show scale. It really depends on the environment, and I think that's always one of the biggest challenges when we're out filming is what do you put behind people. Sometimes you could be in a really horrible little room and there's no real options, so then you might try to make the background fully white, so use a white wall or even a different coloured wall, just something just so it's not taking the eye off the person that's actually being interviewed. It's not distracting. It can be complementary, but you don't want it to sort of overpower them.
I would agree. I mean, when you're looking at a background, you should always try and find something that's relevant to what you're talking about. Because if you're talking about, I don't know, in a factory and you're stuck in an office somewhere, it doesn't really work. You know, it's really got to fit with it. Coming back to the whole lighting, because some people might not really understand this as much, but you have different forms of light. So, you know, inside this room now, it's a lot darker than it is outside. And that's why when you film yourself against a window, the camera on your phone automatically picks up the light outside. So outside's going to be nice and you know, pretty and stuff, but your face is just going to be black. So the best thing to do in that situation is to just turn yourself around. So use the natural light source that's coming in through the window to light you up. You know, natural light is one of the best forms of light. It's quite light colour as well. It's not kind of like tungsten orangey. Just be careful with that. If you've got like harsh sunlight coming through, you know, don't use it then. If it's kind of diffused, if it's a cloudy day, then 100% use that. Yeah,
it's interesting because a lot of our clients think, oh, it's a beautiful blue sky day, it's going to look great. And actually, for filming purposes, having clouds in the sky is much better because it's softening the light. It's too harsh, contrast, you get big shadows. Where actually, if you've got lots of cloud, it looks better on camera. It might not be perfect for the scene that they want to create, but it certainly makes a better filming environment. The other thing I'd add to that as well is if you are filming outdoors, it's making sure that whoever's being interviewed isn't looking into the sun. So although it's useful to have the sunlight coming towards them, it would always be on an offset angle because you don't want them squinting and not being able to see the camera, or it just ruins the performance if the viewer is just constantly looking at them squinting.
Okay, so I mean, we've covered background, we've covered a little bit about lighting and how you can utilise natural light in your home. Now let's look at composition. So composition is kind of like the framing of your shot, isn't it? So I mean, what are your suggestions on the best way for someone who doesn't know a lot about filming and stuff? What's the best way to get good composition?
Well, it's interesting. It goes back to when I was a student at college. I was 16, fresh out of school, went to college to do media studies, and one of the very first lessons the lecturer taught you was that if you've got the camera frame, you always try to get their eyes 2/3 up the screen, because it feels like a natural height for someone to be looking at you. If you have their eyes in the bottom half of the screen or too high, you might be chopping their head off, you might have too much space above them. It doesn't create a very good vibe for the viewer. And the other thing as well is if, say I'm looking that way, you always leave more space in front of the person, because again it just looks like they've got space to talk into, whereas if they're up against the edge of frame, it can feel a bit uncomfortable and claustrophobic even as a viewer. Now sometimes you might actually want to create that. You see a lot of films where they use really bizarre camera angles where it does feel like the actor's trapped.
Kind of feels a bit strange and odd, doesn't it, to the human eye?
But they're doing that on purpose because they're trying to create a mood of claustrophobia or threat or horror. But if you're doing a standard type of interview, where they're not looking directly at the camera, because that's another interesting thing about composition. You could have someone look directly at camera, or you could have someone having a conversation piece where they're looking off camera. That's very much, again, in how you're styling the video. Are you presenting? Are you like Anton Deck or a newsreader, or are you being interviewed so you're looking off camera? So these are all the compositional decisions that you can make.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, when they're maybe filming themselves or filming someone else just on their iPhone or their cheap DSLR or whatever, I'd always recommend, kind of, especially if you're doing it by yourself, just talking straight to camera, because it's simple then, isn't it? And it's another way of kind of getting a message across. If you're kind of talking straight down to the lens, it's almost like you're talking to the person watching this video.
Yeah. Another interesting thing around composition, and it's a bugbear of mine as someone who's worked in the sort of TV, film and corporate space for quite a long time now. I always want things shot horizontally. Now that's very much changing in the sort of modern world, because of things like Facebook and Instagram, where people will scroll down whilst holding their device vertically. But actually, I've always took the view that the cinema screen is that shape, the television screen is that shape, or in the olden days it was much more square, but the medium was made to be that shape. And actually now, and the next generation that are coming through are sort of fighting a little bit against that. So it does create another question that perhaps a couple of years ago you wouldn't even ask, is which way round do I position the camera?
For me, they've both got pros and cons. I think I'm the same as you. Film everything landscape, because you've got a lot more kind of space around your shot, whereas if you film it portrait, you kind of lose it all. But a lot of social media channels like it portrait now, don't they?
Yeah, if you're holding it vertically, you could end up with the black bars at the top and the bottom, and that's what they won't like that either, because they're losing that screen space. So it has to be discussed, and that sort of goes into identifying your audience. Are they on Facebook? Are they on a cinema screen? If you work it out where you're actually aiming your videos, then you can adapt to actually hit that audience.
I mean, composition, all the rules that we've talked about so far, they're based around shooting landscape, aren't they?
They are.
So if you flip it around and put it portrait, the same. It's the same model applies, but it's just slightly different. So it's like, why reinvent the wheel sometimes? When they used to film, obviously, and then TVs used to be square, the framing had to be different. Obviously, like now when they're filming, we've got this empty space here. But back in the day, it would kind of be here. There was no empty space. So as soon as they kind of introduced this more widescreen picture, it gave people so much more room to play around with on this side.
Definitely.
And put objects there and put colours there.
Graphics as well, absolutely.
So the next thing we're going to look at is kind of a tripod. So, I mean, for me, there's not loads to talk about with a tripod.
No.
I think if you're making videos at home, keep it steady.
I think the key there with a tripod, as you say, that it is literally a piece of metal or plastic that holds the camera still. But that holds camera still bit is the key. The amount of videos you see that are shot by someone with less experience, and they're wobbling around, or they don't hold their shots for long enough, that the tripod is the perfect way to just take that element out of the equation. For example, how we're filming today on 3 cameras, they're all on a tripod, they're all still, the shots stay the same. And for any level of filmmaking or making content on your phone, it's much wiser to have a tripod just for the steadiness.
That's it. I mean, it's a tool, isn't it? Use a tripod to get a certain type of shot.
Yeah.
But I'd say, like, home videos, it's not the kind of video where you don't use a tripod, No. Because you just need it steady.
But keep it steady.
And if you don't have a tripod, improvise. Put the table on a chair and then just balance it on the table.
Absolutely,
or
you can
like
use
that,
anything. Gaffer tape your iPhone to the wall or whatever it requires. Just keep it nice and steady for the duration of the filming. So the final thing is that we haven't touched on is sound. Sound is such a massive part of video. It's audio visual, so the audio bit shouldn't be neglected for the video bit. And the interesting thing there is things like the iPhones and the Android phones. Their cameras are so good now that you can get good quality video at proper high levels. You could drop a clip from an iPhone into a clip from some of our videos that are being shot on a really high quality DSLR. But actually the problem arises is with the sound, because the way that the sound waves go away from you means that the microphone has to be as close to you as possible.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to be the other side of the room. So again, in the scenario we're in now, you can't see it on the cameras, but the microphone is just above our heads, and that gives you that clarity of sound. Now, if you're shooting on an iPhone as a consumer, it's you're always going to suffer. Lighting and sound are always going to be where you
I
suffer.
mean, for me, I think it's true. I think there's a stat out there that people are more likely to turn off a video if the audio is bad than the picture quality. Because I would, if you can't hear it, you just get rid of it.
Yeah.
There are a couple of ways in which you can utilise good microphones with your smartphone. I think the cheapest and probably the most efficient one is to use kind of like earbuds or Bluetooth headphones and stuff, because obviously they're designed for hands-free calling, so they do have a microphone in there, and that is going to be closer to your mouth than your camera is. It's going to be over there.
Yeah.
The second is you can get something called like a lapel mic or a lav mic, and it's kind of like a mic that just clips onto your kind of lapel here. So the microphone's there, it's really close to your mouth, but usually there's quite a long wire for them. And obviously a lot of iPhones and smartphones are getting rid of the kind of audio in which you'd usually plug it into. So you can probably still find them, but they're probably just a bit harder to come by. Another alternative, which a lot of people don't think about, and it depends how skilled you are with editing, is you could film your sound externally. So there's internal audio, which is like you plug the microphone into the camera, they record videos there, sounds there, they kind of compress themselves. Or you can do external audio where the video file's there, you're recording it on your phone, but you've got like an external recorder, almost like a dictaphone. You record them but separately, but then when you get to the edit suite, you can just sync them up.
Absolutely.
And if you've got a bit of skill, I'd recommend doing that, because you can have the camera 5 meters away, but you can have the recorder there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely.
But I wouldn't rely solely on the phone. So that's our 5 top tips about filming from home. We do have an online course, so if you do want to learn more about that, we'll put a link in to the bottom of this video. We do offer a quick edit service as well, which starts from £99 plus VAT, and that's to edit up to 2 minutes of your home footage video. Thank you for listening. Bye.
The Arc Media Video Marketing Show, giving you powerful video marketing strategies to truly make an impact.